I'm so excited to share the ROSeDS model with you. Now, get ready for the thrilling bonus portion of the ROSeDS presentation series. We're about to delve into arguably the most exciting concept of the ROSeDS stratospheres. We've explored the significance of hexagons in the natural world and how they relate to categories in the ROSeDS structure. Hexagons bring strength through their flexible nature, making them resistant to breaking while allowing flexibility. We've also discovered how hexagons can come together to form spirals and spheres, both in nature and in social structures. These structures work harmoniously, just like the spirals and spheres found throughout the universe. Moreover, we've observed how these patterns repeat in social structures within human society. It's fascinating to see how the same principles manifest at different scales. But let's not forget about our own existence in this dimensional universe. We have length, height, and width, which give us the presence and space to exist alongside everything else in the universe. So buckle up and get ready to explore more captivating insights in our journey through the ROSeDS model. The wondrous nature of ROSeDS stratospheres await. I am thrilled to share this new information with you. I have immersed myself in exploration of the ROSeDS social structure model and its connection to natural phenomena. I have also always been just as fascinated by the physical dimensions. This brought me to realize how many more dimensions are within, in front of, and all around us. We are aware of much more than we have been recognizing. The fact of the matter is that we need to recognize unlimited dimensions to understand the extent of the ROSeDS model in social structures. So now, I'm going to show you one step farther so you can see how a multitude of dimensions affect our everyday lives. I am so excited that I can't wait. We don't live in 3 dimensions. We don't even live in just 1, 2, 3, 4, or more dimensions. What we live in is very different than just a 3rd dimension. We live in the thirds dimension, in other words, the dimension of thirds. The thirds dimension is displayed here as 3 dimensions wide by 3 dimensions high. I call it the thirds dimension, but each block is considered a dimension within the dimension of thirds. So the thirds dimension has a total of 9 dimensions because 3 high times 3 wide equals 9. If it were the seconds dimension, it would be displayed as 2 dimensions wide by 2 dimensions high. The firsts, fourths, fifths, sixth dimensions, and so on work the same way. Let's look at how these dimensions appear on a 2-dimensional surface. Next, we can see how these dimensions appear as fields to name the dimensions in. And we can lay the fields out in order. Are you beginning to recognize this layout? Notice how the dimensional fields are laid out here in sets of thirds, identified with red, blue, and yellow. In the thirds dimension, like when we started out with the boxes and squares, these fields multiply into more columns and rows of similar fields. Before we go any farther, do you recognize these columns as the ROSeDS layers, like where we identified all of the fields in each column in separate slides? This display shows the thirds sections within each column. These 6 columns are representative of the 6 sides of the spherical hexagon as well. But wait, to break the entire sphere model down into thirds, that means there have to be 3 sets of 3. Where are the other 3 columns? After all, there are only 6 layers in the third dimension here. The other 3 columns represent the core, the axis, and the levels that make up the center of sphere. And now we can see how the third dimension comes together in the ROSeDS social structure model. By organizing the social structure in this manner, we can categorize and identify different layers and levels within various social sphere structures. This allows us to gain a better understanding of the overall framework and how it applies to different aspects of society. Here you see the complete layout of the ROSeDS stratosphere model flat map chart. These categories serve as a general framework for various topics which are either the same, similar, or relative to them. There are other topics and categories. Your ideas are welcome. 0 dimensions is only a point without presence. One dimension is a line with 2 points at the ends. 2 dimensions is a square of width and height with 4 bordering lines. 3 dimensions is a cube with a square on all 6 sides. So it goes to reason that the 4th dimension has 8 sides with a cube on each of those 8 sides. But what does an 8-sided dimensional shape look like? Or is the 4th dimension a shape at all? After all, we have all the space we need to place any shape we want. Here's an example of what 4th dimensional shapes could look like. The 4th dimension no longer holds a single layer shape, but any shape can spin to fill a spherical space to appear as a sphere, which is why our planets and stars ultimately take the shape of spheres. Let's look at this from a different perspective. What is different about this shape from any line or shape of previous dimensions? Once the previous dimensions were complete, we could have used any shape to fill the space, so we could use any shape to fill 4th dimensional space too. Again, what is different about both of these shapes than previous shapes? Moving is what's different. The shapes have to move to be in the 4th dimension, but there's something more required as well. Actually, there are 3 more things required to enter anything higher than the 3rd dimension. In order to have movement, we must have 3 things: time, speed, and distance. I'm telling you that the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensions are time, speed, and distance. That's understandable, right? But there's more. And it's just as easy to wrap our minds around because we are surrounded by all these things in our lives every day. I'm leading up to something truly phenomenal. I never would have understood how this went together if it wasn't for my research of the ROSeDS model. And in the next 2 slides, it'll be just as clear to you too. Does it make sense to you that we don't live in the 3rd dimension? I've already shown that we have at least 3 more dimensions, and I'm about to show you 3 more dimensions on top of those. All of these dimensions are active and in our lives, and you already experience them every second of every day, otherwise they would not be dimensions. Take another look at the ROSeDS model flat map chart. The levels come in 3 groups of 3 levels in each group. The layers across come in 3 groups of 3 layers in each group. What we are living in is not the 3rd dimension, or again, even in 3 dimensions. We are living in the plural thirds dimension. We are living in the plural dimension of thirds. We have 1st through 9th dimensions, and their containers numbered. 2 times the dimension number equals the number of containers. The beginning of dimensions is an invisible point and represents information. The 1st dimension times 2 equals a line with 2 endpoints and represents length. The 2nd dimension times 2 equals a square with 4 sides that represents shape. The 3rd dimension times 2 equals a cube with 6 sides that represents space. The fourth dimension times 2 equals a double layer cube with 8 sides that is not possible without being in constant movement. So the fourth dimension represents constant displacement. The fifth dimension times 2 equals 10 sides and represents speed, where movement has velocities. The sixth dimension times 2 equals 12 sides that represents distance, which is not limited to any particular speed, but can accelerate between velocities. The seventh dimension times 2 equals 14 sides that represents mixture, giving the ability to integrate anything together. The eighth dimension times 2 equals 16 sides, representing expansion, allowing for orderly developments in anything. The ninth dimension times 2 equals 18 sides, representing multiplication, meaning volumes, amounts, quantities, and bodies can increase in numbers. I'm going to reverse the order of the 9 dimensions because, as mentioned before, all of these start at the center core in the spherical ROSeDS model and spread out and up from there. This is the third dimension. The third dimension is represented here as 3 squares up and 3 squares across. That's a total of 9 squares. The red field represents the first dimensions. It is 1 by 1, or 1 times 1, equaling 1 dimension. One singular dimension is all that is needed to represent the plural first dimensions. That seems a little odd, but stick with me here. The orange fields represent the second dimensions, which are 2 by 2, or 2 times 2, equaling a total of 4 dimensions. 4 singular dimensions are what it takes to represent the plural seconds dimensions. The yellow fields represent the thirds dimensions, which are 3 by 3, or 3 times 3, equaling a total of 9 dimensions, exactly as presented in the previous slide. 9 singular dimensions are what it takes to represent the plural thirds dimension. The green fields represent the fourths dimensions, which are 4 by 4, or 4 times 4, equaling a total of 16 dimensions. 16 singular dimensions are what it takes to represent the plural fourth dimension. The blue fields represent the fifth dimensions, which are 5 by 5, or 5 times 5, equaling a total of 25 dimensions. 25 singular dimensions are what it takes to represent the plural fifth dimension. The lavender fields represent the sixth dimension, which are 6 by 6, or 6 times 6, equaling a total 36 dimensions. 36 singular dimensions are what it takes to represent the plural sixth dimension. All of these plural dimensions build on top of and including the previous dimensions. There is no lower or higher dimensions because without any previous dimension there would be none of the next dimensions, and dare I say, without every next dimension there would be no previous dimensions. For some, this concept of plural dimensions will bring up a lot of questions. For many, considering plural dimensions will take time to consider, then bring up questions. I will be sharing a lot more about plural dimensions in future presentations as well. But for now, let's look at how plural dimensions affect the Robbie Ousley superdynamic social stratosphere model. As we saw before, the flat map chart representing the ROSeDS model has 9 sections. Across those chart sections, there are 9 columns divided into 3 columns in each of the 3 sections. Vertically, there are 9 rows divided into 3 rows in each of the 3 vertical sections. You saw how this part of the ROSeDS model works with all of the description in the fields. Just so you know, the curves, spirals, spheres, and hexagons in nature are assembled with these same elements. That is part of what I will be including in presentations going forward too. It's nothing short of mind-blowing to realize how well everything works together, even when something doesn't appear to be working together with everything else. But what happens to the ROSeDS model when we look at the other plural dimensions? I'll bet some have guessed already, so watch closely, because here it is. Each plural dimension brings with it the same relative numbers of sections, categories, layers, and levels as each dimension's numbers. Because we are in the plural thirds dimensions, our perspective of previous dimensions is in groups of 3. There will be more on that in later presentations as well. The ROSeDS model is flexible and dynamic enough to handle unlimited dimensions, even though our minds might not comprehend them very well yet. This compares to the unlimited sequences of golden ratios discussed from the beginning of the series. The closer we align ourselves with the concept of endlessness, the better we can comprehend and understand the eternity of structures we are working with. The ROSeDS model is an infinite eternal model. ROSeDS is the golden rose of social structures and dimensions. We see and experience all thirds dimension at all times. Information, presence, movement, and growth. Our presence does it all through all dimensions of length, height and depth, width and breadth, time and space displacement, speed and velocity, distance and acceleration, mixed integration, expanding development, multiplying, increase. We live and are active in all dimensions even when we don't fully realize it. We have all of the building blocks in the thirds dimension that allows life, but life is based in the fourth dimension, so how are we here? We're not. We are there, in the fourth dimension, while temporarily living here. The ROSeDS model shows how levels and layers of the natural, physical, and social structures align. Levels span from bottom to top. Layers expand from the core outward to spread out into layers of strata all around the spheres, whether it is atoms, planets, stars, galaxies, and the entire universe, or individual persons, organizations, government, religions, and more. We are all here to make things better. We are interdependent on each other to live and grow, interact, and expand. No one is here of their own doing, and no one can move forward without everyone. We grow and move to better in spirals of cycles that build upward. And we grow and move to better in spirals of cycles that vibrate outward to cover everything that tries to tear us down. ROSeDS are what make the world and everything go round, even the universe. Thank you so much for your interest in the ROSeDS model. There are many more resources coming. Check out free gifts and more opportunities in the notes with this video. Continue with me on this journey to learn and comprehend so much more with the Robbie Ousley Super Dynamic Social Stratosphere.